Welcome back to the morning show here on Arise News. Joining us now is Chude Jideonwo, the CEO of Joy Inc., creators of the Joy Hub, a non-clinical, non-judgmental, non-discriminatory, emotional and mental health walk-in center where young people dealing with depression, trauma, anxiety, and thoughts of suicide can access help. About 3 weeks ago, he released an expose interview where Biola Dakolo alleged she was raped by popular Abuja pastor, Biola. Shortly after that, he released another interview with a second alleged rape accuser. He's joining us now to tell us why we haven't heard the last of these stories. Good morning, Chude.
Good morning. Good to be here.
Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Pleasure
Thank
to
you. It's
have
good
you
to be
on.
here.
Yeah. So before we go into what people are probably waiting for us to talk about, which is the rape allegations, tell people a little bit about what Joy Inc. does. And the reason why is because we were actually talking earlier about mental health and in relation to the anime incidents in Japan, but also to just how every day we're seeing people that have mental illness. So tell us what Joy Inc. is about.
Joy Inc. is beyond mental health. Joy Inc. is a human flourishing company. And what we are is, the mission is to transform the continent into mental, emotional, and spiritual safe space where people can live authentic lives, essentially, without the pressures and the prejudices and the cultures that limit us from becoming our fuller selves. So that's what Joy Inc. is about. However, in doing the work, in launching the company last year, I was confronted with the mental health crisis that is, metasizing on the continent. And that is an urgent problem. It always has been a challenge for people to live fuller, richer lives in their faiths, in their hearts, with their minds, with their thoughts. But however, urgently now, mental illnesses have become a crisis. And so I thought there was no way that we could talk about what people could become without helping them solve the problems that they had. And that led us to found the Joy Hub. And so the Joy Hub is for people who are dealing with mental illness. And I know that there's still a stigma when we say mental illness. So usually we have to say mental issues. But even naming it by what it is, because it's an illness like any other, helps to normalize that conversation. So people who are dealing with the number one mental health crisis that Nigerians and West Africans are facing is depression. I do, however, have an intuitive feeling that anxiety is a big issue.
Well, did you just hear the headlines? I mean, the headlines are...
Yes. But because we don't have the numbers for Nigeria, so we can't make an evidence-based case for the numbers of anxiety. I think it's also because we don't take anxiety seriously, even as an emotional condition. So, but we know about depression for certain. We know that I think over 10 million of us are dealing with on one level of depression or the other. The National Depression Report that Joy Inc. did with the NY polls last year said 60% of Nigerians are at risk at depression, and disproportionately people over the age of 50. So we do know that for sure with the numbers about depression. Also, if you look at the trend lines across the world, depression rises at the same time as anxiety. So there's that. I've also been very suspicious about PTSD of all kinds, especially trauma. And then just doing these interviews again over the past few weeks convinces me intuitively that we are having a post-trauma disorder crisis.
So you talk a lot, you refer to your intuition quite a bit.
Yes.
How is that how you've tapped into this zeitgeist? Because you said you set up this Joy Inc. before the mental issues really became front page news, and which we'll come to later. You also tapped into this church too, which obviously was a movement that was just waiting to happen before you just detonated that. How is it that you're able to always just tap into the zeitgeist?
Right. So I'm going to put her a bit on the spot. A few years ago, someone gave me a book called True North. She seems to know that first. And she gave me a book called True North. And True North was about listening to finding your authentic self and knowing what you want to be in the world and how you want to be in the world and stubbornly owning it no matter the cost. That book, ultimately within a short period of 2 years, led me to resign from my job as CEO at Red. Because then I realized that there was other things that this was important, but this wasn't what I wanted to do at this time. And that was an intuitive decision. It was a decision about saying, because questions about who am I, what am I supposed to be doing at this time are not database decisions. They are not, you don't crunch numbers and then decide. You take a trip into yourself and then decide. I also went through a major depressive episode in 2016 for about 3 months, and I had a fleeting thought of suicide. And so that actually woke me up to, okay, Chude, you need, if depression is such a terrible thing that it wakes you up to what life can be if you're not being your full self. And so it was like a wake-up call. You know, one of the researchers at Columbia says, depression is a spiritual knock on the door. And so it's like, Chude, look, you have a decision to make it. So depression kind of made it urgent. And so 1 year after the depressive episode, just thinking about things and reconsidering my choices made me sense that this was a time in the continent to begin to draw people's attention to the fact that we are living harried, horrid lives, no matter how much money we are making or how much economic value we create. And so it's like, how do you use your life, your story, your influence, your power, or whatever it is that your privilege also today, to draw people's attention to the fact that we are not living full lives as a people on the continent, and especially in West Africa. So that was an intuitive decision.
Wow. I want to go back to some of the things you said earlier, which is around anxiety. I think that I've seen people have anxiety episodes where they've had that moment where you could almost feel, it's a physical reaction sometimes, depending on how severe it is. But sometimes it's hard to describe to people. So how do you help people understand what anxiety is?
First, I say that if you can afford it, you have the privilege of money, and you have an anxiety. So this is a simple tack. Your body is your ally. Your body is a feedback mechanism. Anytime your body feels wrong, see someone. You know, it's just a basic rule. Yeah. If our cars were making strange noises, we'll take it to someone. Sure. If your body, your mind is out misaligned, no matter how minute it is, see someone. That's just like a basic rule. The thing is that the mind has its own momentum. And one of the exercises, you tell people to just sit for 10 minutes and observe. So we did the Joy Retreat last month. And just people sit and observe your thoughts and observe where they come from and where they go to, and identify that you and your thoughts are different. There's a psychology self-help tool called cognitive journaling. And cognitive journaling means sit and observe your thoughts and write them. And try and identify and locate when they come so that you realize that they come. And so if they come, they can go. You know?
Fair enough.
So, and this is not going to transform anybody's life, but it's just the first point is awareness, to be aware that your thoughts are not you. And so when your thoughts, so there's something we call the life is simple 3-step. And so I say when a person is going through an anxiety spiral, 3 things, ask yourself, what exactly am I feeling? Write it down. What is the thought or action that triggered this feeling? Because what it is that our feelings are a thermostat, you know, and this is me trying to take all the research and then make it into like easy and nudge it. So our feelings are a thermostat. So when you start feeling angry, there was a thought that led to it. And how you know is one day I was climbing up the stairs in my house and I was climbing up very sprightly. And then I remembered something, and literally same house, same location, same series of movements, my energy slows down because I remembered something. And that's what happens. Anytime your energy moves, you've thought about something. And so the second step is, what is a thought or action? Because sometimes some people can't remember the thoughts, but they can remember the action that led to this mood change. And then ask yourself, what specifically can I do about it? And often the answer will be, I don't know what specifically I can do about it. And it's like, pack it. So like, I will think about this at 2 p.m. on Monday when I have time. But spending time in my mind, going round and round, trying to solve this, will not sort it. So that's like a simple 3-step. When you're about to enter into an anxiety spiral, what exactly am I feeling? What is the thought or action that triggered it? And what exactly can I do about it? Which means, if you realize that there's nothing you can do about it, then you pack it.
So these are cognitive behavioral therapy tools.
These are, yeah.
Is that one of the facilities that you offer, one of the services that you offer?
In conjunction with a certified psychiatrists, yes.
Okay.
So you offer that at your
Yes,
facilities?
yes,
Okay.
yes.
What else do you offer?
So first, the Joy Hub is free. It's a walk-in center. First treatment is always free for anyone.
Okay.
It's in Surulere. The website is joyhub.ng. You can just go in and then book an appointment and then walk in. And then if you need further help, because it's run by donations, then if you're able to get somebody to fund the treatment or etc. But we have an NGO called Olamma Cares that operates the hub. So that is what it does. It helps people access treatment. Wow. And the first treatment is for free.
I'm going to ask you to pause now. When we come back from the break, we'll talk about your services.
All right, thank you.
We'll take a short break now. Stay with us.
Welcome back to the morning show. We're still in studio with the founder of Joy Inc., Chude Jideonwo. Thank you so much, Chude, for being here and really for helping us understand some basic coping skills around how to deal with anxiety. But before we went on break, you were telling us about the services that Joy Inc. and actually how you fund those services.
Right, yes.
Can you continue, please?
Well, at the moment, the hub, which is a place where people get treatment, the walk-in center, is 50% being run by my personal donation. So I allocate a percentage of my monthly income to the Joy Hub. We've now begun to reach out to, and we are reaching out to corporate partners and SME partners to make a donation of $1 million a year if they are corporate partners, or $1 million a month or so if they're corporate partners, or $100,000 a month if they're SMEs. So that's to run the hub, which is a not-for-profit. Joy Inc. in and of itself hasn't really had a business model yet. And that was because one of the things I did was when I wanted to do this, I didn't have a business model for it, but I didn't want that to stop what I needed to do.
Fair enough.
So now what we do is we have events, events that help people become their full selves. So one of that is the Joy Retreat, which we are mentioning, has gotten a lot of rave reviews.
Yes.
We take people for a weekend and we give them these tools. Some of them are science-based, some of them are intuition-based. And we give them these tools to help them find clarity and peace to make important decisions. So kind of like the process that I went through. And we don't tell them what to do. That's one of the things they love. We never tell them this is what you should decide, this is what you should do. We just give them tools. And it's incredible. One of the tools is something we call the walk, which was created by Katie Bryan. Katie Bryan is one of America's leading, I don't know what to call her, but she's been on Oprah, she's talked about the work she's done, and I use it for my life. And it's 4 questions, is it true, is it absolutely true, what would you be? So we help them walk through it. And I remember the retreat, the second day when we did the work, people were struggling with it, because that's the crux of the work. People are struggling with the answers to their own questions. And then you think to yourself, they're resisting this. Oh, Chude, you're failing. And then you have to trust the process. And then by the time we finish, this is on Saturday and the retreat is still Sunday, but it's like, we're done.
Wow.
This worked. Wow. I've got it. And so for me, it's miraculous, because I had that same reaction in my own life. So there's the Joy Retreat. There are the life classes, which are one-day classes. We're doing one in November called This Is Not Where I'm Supposed to Be in Life, which is career planning and self-discovery exercise for millennials and Generation Z workers in the workplace. And that's because in our research, from our events, the one thing that young people below 40 often say is, this not where I'm supposed to be in life? I'm not doing what I'm supposed to be in. I'm not doing what I love. I feel stuck. And so, we have brought these tools together, which are used for companies that call us to consult for them.
That's great.
To help them. Because some of the research it's a 20-year-old research from Harvard, in the Harvard Business Review, called Job Sculpting. And Job Sculpting advises, this is Harvard, this is not Iyanla, this is not Oprah, this is Harvard. So I never say it's one of the things to keep people happy in their jobs for a long time is to find out their embedded self-interest, life interest, not career interest, not what they are good at, but what they want to do. And there are 8 life interests. And they say you are likely to keep a staff happy, not damaging their personal life, and retained with you for a long time if you can uncover their life interests. And so this exercise helps companies uncover the life interests of their staff, so they're not blindsided by resignation. So the life classes are held held out of, but sometimes companies call us to help them do the live classes. And then we do the master classes, which are Ask Me Anything sessions, so there's this massive research about relationships, about work, about life, about business, and how to do that while still living a flourishing life. And so people come in for 8 hours and just ask. Wow. So these event products are the main things that we do for revenue now. So we have the next retreat coming up in October. We have the live class coming up in November.
And all this information is on your website?
Yes, joyinc.xyz, yes, or at Joy Incredible on Instagram.
Amazing. And your facilities are? Where are you based?
Surulere. Joy Inc. works out of a room at the Joy Hub.
Okay.
We're a small team. You know, that's also one of the things. So in my reading about my life, I read about Peter Drucker, who is called the father of modern management. And he was teaching you either want to build a great company or want to build a great product. You know, and I decided I didn't want to build another company. I wanted to build a great product. And says, have a small team. And so it's like, have a small team and commit that the team will never grow larger than this. So Joy Inc. is a team of 4 people.
Oh, wow.
And the aim is never to grow further than 4 people. And every other project is done in conjunction, in collaboration, or in partnership, like the Hub.
Fantastic.
Yes. So the Hub, so we only have one office. You know, we're practicing some of the things we preach, which is flexible work hours. So at Joy Inc., we don't have resumption times, we don't have closing times, we have tasks, we have 4DX meetings. So, you know, which is one of the things. People don't need to, anyway, I don't want to upset bosses. So we don't really need a lot of space. So we give that space out to people who need help, and we just come in when we need to do anything we need to do.
I'm not sure that would work exactly for this show, but maybe for other things that would work.
Yeah, so yes, the office is in Surulere. The address is on the website, and then also on the Instagram page at Joy Incredible.
Absolutely fantastic. Now, as I was saying, you seem to really be tapping into this zeitgeist.
Yes.
You hit such a raw nerve when you did this interview where this lady, Mrs. Bukola Dakolo, alleged rape by her pastor at the time, Pastor Biola Fatoyinbo. I want to know, all the facts that were stated there, or accusations that were stated there, have been dissected, debated, rehashed, and what have you. But what was your reaction when that interview came out? Yeah. Did you expect the reaction that it got?
No. No. I expected worse.
Okay.
I expected worse.
And explain what that meant.
Yes. I didn't know that the culture was ready for this kind of conversations. Everybody told me not to do it. You know, because I've been living. I mean, I'm not unused to criticism. I've done things on a national basis that have gotten me to criticism. Over the past 3 years, I've stepped aside and just kind of focused on what I want to do. And so the argument was, you know, why do you want to get back into the fray? And this is controversy. And why do you want to get into controversy? And of course, for me, it was just, so I went back into myself and checked my intentions. And I thought, you know, she asked me to do this, and I knew why they needed a person like me to do this. And it was the right thing to do. So now in doing that, because I always say that the world is a marketplace. When you go to sell things, you don't know who's coming to buy it. Sure. So I'm like, you never know how Nigerians will react to this issue, because we have loads and loads of biases and prejudices and cultural traps.
And trauma.
Yes, and trauma, hidden trauma. And one of the most powerful traumas is women, older women, who have gone through similar or worse experiences, who've told themselves that they've coped with it, and for whom this kind of report can be a kind of judgment. Why did you keep quiet when it was your time? And so they feel like they have to defend the status quo. So because of all these things, I couldn't predict. And so I said, we had to be ready for the fact that people would disbelieve everything that she was saying. And we had to be ready for the fact that people would question our intentions and question our motivations and question, are you doing this for fame? Are you doing this for this? Are you doing this for that? And we prepared ourselves to stand alone. Even as an interviewer, I prepared myself for nobody to believe, so that was the preparation. When it came out, I was surprised, pleasantly. There was a part of my mind that held out for 10% that people were ready for this, but I couldn't be sure. So when it happened, I was pleasantly surprised. People seemed to be ready to speak out and to be ready to believe people who talk about their experiences. So I guess, again, it's that intuitive thing, which is, this is...
Totally.
You just have to go with it.
You just have to go with it. You just have to go with it, yes. And, just something you said. I mean, the point of this moment, again, this person who has been accused hasn't been found guilty by a court of law. So, that is as it is. But it's just at least that women, especially, are having the courage to speak out. Now, in the past, what I wasn't prepared for as well was the groundswell of people around me who would be telling me their own personal stories. Now that weakened me.
Do you feel burdened by so many people coming to you to tell you the story now? And how do you manage that burden?
Two things. I mean, I was on TV on Monday and I broke down and I was crying and I was so ashamed of myself. Because
Don't
I'm like,
be.
Don't be.
I know,
I'm a crier.
We cry on
I'm
the
not
show
ashamed
all the time.
I'm not ashamed of crying, but just like, look, you're trying to talk about you. I mean, I wasn't the one that went through this trauma. I'm trying to talk about it and then you're breaking down.
It's empathy.
Yes, I guess. So before that, people have been calling me and saying to me, how are you feeling? You know, are you strong? And I thought you guys are being so dramatic. Like, I'm not the one that went through this traumatic experience. I just, you know, so when I broke down and the camera I had to pinch the presenter and be like, so the camera had to move away from me and I had to like cry it out. And I thought, oh, they were right.
This is
so
what
something was obviously happening inside of me. And because I do this work, I knew. So I had to go back and step back and see a therapist and just kind of work through the initial, what am I feeling, why am I feeling this? So that I wasn't ready for. The second thing, and I say this often, because I didn't do this interview, and I told Biola this, and I said this on this thing, I'm not doing this from a place of self-righteousness, but from a place of compassion, which means that we all have to do better as a culture. And so for me, it's even beyond rape, also about power, and also about how any of us who have been in positions of power have wielded that power, especially against the vulnerable. And so for me, and this is a process I had gone through with my therapist in 2016, it was also to re-engage anything that I needed to deal with as a person. You know?
Almost like, in a way, your own 12-step program.
Exactly. So whatever I need to take accountability for, whatever I need to process, whatever etc. So there's also that. And I welcome both.
So your interview triggered the whole society. So there's no way that you would have been exempt from that. You would have been triggered on some level as well.
Yeah.
But you talked about the courage of the women around you to come forward. Do you feel that men have demonstrated similar courage, the men around you? Have you heard any reports from
I've seen two things. There's certainly a reckoning, even if men aren't speaking their truths yet. There's certainly a reckoning. A friend of mine, I keep sharing this, a friend of mine said to me a few weeks ago, he said, Chude, this table you are shaking, there's so many people that will fall on it. And I'm like, let's it all happen. You know, so there's that when men are reconsidering their behaviors and just thinking, that thing that I thought was harmless, was innocent, that thing that I thought was this, was improper. Yes, there was an interview, and the interviewer, a guy, said to me, he said, man, me, myself, I'm panicking. I'm going to look at all my past behavior. I'm trying to think, what did I do? And I said, yes.
That's the whole
That's
idea.
exactly what this does.
That's what the whole idea. For me, for you, for everybody, that's the whole idea. So,
and also, too, I mean, sorry here, one of the things I'm hoping that it does is also help women in the heat of the moment,
yes.
be very clear as well. And so hopefully this will also help women unlock their voice to say, just so you know, I am not consenting to this.
Absolutely. And to be able to have the clarity of saying that, you know, and this is both ways. To be able to have the clarity of saying that and to know that they can say that. So I open my Instagram, I check my Instagram once a week. I open my Instagram yesterday. Some of the questions are heartbreaking. From a young woman sent me a message. I saw it yesterday. Saying that she went on it. This was date rape. And she was asking me if it was rape. And I thought, wait, first and foremost, I'm a stranger. You know, I looked at her thing. She was working for a consulting company, I think, and she's obviously economically successful. And I thought, how do you not know at this point what date rape is? And why do you talk to a total stranger? Is there nobody you can talk to in your family?
She's safer talking to you, she feels.
Yes. So that ability for people to just speak out, however tentatively, and be validated by saying your questions are valid, you know, and you have the right to your personal space, I think has been, for me, the most important part of this entire thing.
We're gonna go on.
But the lady who reached out to you, she would reach out to you because even in the law, there's so much confusion about what the definition of rape is. It varies, and so this is how even in society we don't know. We have no idea. And then the people around you might judge you. They might ridicule you. That's why she had to come to you.
I can say
so it's really another. I'm sure you didn't expect that.
Yeah, I didn't expect
bastion.
that.
But you've literally set off. I mean, this. I always say this. We're in a moment in time because yesterday, one of my aburos that I've known for a long time, she sent me an article in which she talks about her experience of being raped. I was just...
It's all coming out.
It was like on my phone, and I thought, wow. She said she's going to go and pick up the hard copy of the magazine. Wow. And she just wanted me to know this.
Wow.
That's amazing.
Wow.
This morning on my way here, CNN has there are 5 women that have just talked about their experience on CNN Digital.
Really?
We're going to go on a break, and when we come back, we're going to talk about what it means and what the culture and how this can be a beginning of a new conversation for Nigerians. Stay with us. Welcome back to the morning show. We're still in studio with Chude Jideonwo, who is the founder of Joy Inc. and also the journalist who broke the story on the alleged rape story that Busola Dakolo accusing Pastor Fatoyinbo of raping her, that has spurred a whole conversation for a new generation, which is really what we were talking about before we went on break. That so many voices have now come to the table.
Absolutely, of men and women, but there's also the church elements. So before we had Joy Inc. and Joy Hub and places like that, the church was a place for refuge of people who were tormented mentally, either depression, anxiety, a whole gamut of issues. People went to church. So understandably, a lot of people are protective over the church, and they're expressing their protectiveness in different ways. Some are expressing their protectiveness by wanting a deeper probe and a sanitization of the church, and other people just want anything swept under the carpet and for you to be quiet. How do you feel about those contrasting views?
Right. First, that's why I'm very grateful to Enough Enough Nigeria, Yemi Adamolekun, who is a core in the church network across Nigeria. She's the one that's been driving most of this with the Not in My Church movement that they formed in partnership with Busola. And so, also, I'm obviously anybody who follows me on social media or anywhere knows that I'm a church boy.
Yes, yes.
When I spent a while in an American university, people would ask me, "Are you spiritual?" You know, there's a trend. I wrote about it for, I think, the Mail and Guardian. Spiritual but not religious. And everybody says, and I say, I'm both spiritual and religious. I love the rituals of Christianity. I love the symbols. I love the practices. I go to church every Sunday. And so, so I love the church. And the church has been a place of safety for me. It's been a place of revelation for me. I'm a Pentecostal Christian as well. I'm a tongue-speaking Christian. That's the kind of thing that you say in New York and your friends look at you funny. Tongue-speaking.
I know exactly where that happened. And in Connecticut, I can see that. So we're both alumni of the Yale Fellowship. We both went to do the fellowship at Yale.
The transformational program.
Yes.
So obviously I can't be fighting the church because the church has been my place of safety. But the church needs to be accountable because it has a higher responsibility quota. Like you said, people go to the church for healing. People go to the church but also you can understand, like you said, why people get very personal about this. Because the other day, people have been calling me with all kinds of stories. Like, if I decided to make this my life's work, I wouldn't be finished. And especially of pastors. We have about 120 stories of specific pastors with evidences. Yes, evidence.
Have people named names?
Yes, people have named names. So one of the people named is a person I consider one of my teachers as a Christian. And this, again, is allegations, not proven.
Of course.
But then when I heard it, my heart sank. For 5 minutes, I felt unmoored. Like the center of my spirituality and my faith had been moved. And this is me, who has spent time questioning my faith, who almost became an atheist and then came back. And so my faith was arrived by myself. But because a person who has taught me some of the central teachings in my faith was accused of this, my first instinct was to say, it can't be true. So I understand why people would feel protective about the people that led them to Christ or led them to the church or led them to something. But the best of men are still men. The best of women are still women. And the Bible is replete with stories of anointed people like Samson, like David, who, even in spite of their anointing, committed sins and were punished fatally by God. Samson with death, David with the death of his child, according to the Bible.
And the sword never departed from his generation.
Never departed from generation, exactly. And I always remind Christians, the Bible does say that the gates of hell shall not prevail against the church. And so nothing, if this thing is of God, then nothing holding it accountable cannot destroy its foundations. And so let's get back to the issue of specific people and specific accountability. Our faith is strong. The persons we believe in, if God is God, then God is God. If somebody XYZ has saved you, Jesus or Muhammad or the Buddha has saved you, he still saved you. But we can hold specific humans accountable for specific actions and still proceed with our faith.
Thank you for that nuanced reasoning, because it doesn't mean that you are against the church, trying to take down the church.
Of course not.
Which is the way it's been perceived in some quarters.
Yeah.
As much as there's been sort of this unlocking of people's voices, there's also been quite a lot of backlash.
Yes.
And I think for some people, it's very difficult to accept this. When you get the backlash, how are you able to, first of all, have a conversation around that? And how do we have a conversation going forward? Because my thing is, yes, these are allegations, but the fact that for some people it's inconceivable, they can't go down that road to even think about it. How do we start to have a different conversation? Because what we do know is that the percentage of people that have been assaulted is astronomical.
Yes,
I mean, the last data we had was 1 in 4 women has had some sort of sexual assault against them. Some as far back as, as early as 5. We had a woman here who said the first time she was raped was at 5, when she was 5 years old. All the stories in the CNN digital article, all those women were raped between the ages of 5 and 10. So for me, the biggest thing is, I understand that this is hard for people to believe, but why did you think it was so hard for people to believe, to the point where people have gone on to say they're conducting their own investigations? I'm not mentioning names because we're not going to give people airtime. But why is it that people can't?
I joke that I joke, but I mean it seriously. I'm like, compassion is my superpower. People are afraid. People are afraid in all kinds of ways. They're afraid of what it will mean if. So an ex-girlfriend of mine said, she told her mother she posted on her social media pages about abuse, and her mother said, delete it, because your father is going to ask me where I was when this happened to you. Or another story of a young woman who said to me that her mother, the man who the mother married, was the one doing this. And the mother needed the man's money to take care of them. And so the mother had to live with this cognitive dissonance of pretend that this wasn't happening so she could get the economic wherewithal to take care of her kids. And so confronting her mother with this story means confronting her mother with her flaws, so to speak. There's all of that. So when you rip off the Band-Aid, then all the worms come out. And so now we don't want to confront ourselves.
So it's like this culture of secrecy and shame.
Yes, and we are being forced in the most intimate of ways. Is a connection between spiritual, mental, emotional. And that's this story went to the highest possible emotional point.
Oh yeah.
It has everything.
When I tell you triggered society, you literally even rape survivors were furious about this interview. Like, just move on. I did. Just get over it. I did. But I also want you to address something that you mentioned earlier. There was an allegation that you might be doing this looking for fame. You and Mrs. Dakolo are doing this looking for fame. I want to ask you, do you recall the lady who accused Dominic Strauss-Kahn? What's her name?
Oh, right.
Yeah. And the Bill Cosby accusers, what are their names?
That's true.
The Weinstein accusers, what are their names?
That's true.
You don't become famous by accusing anybody.
That's true. That's absolutely
not how to get famous.
It's true.
I never thought of that.
Name one of them.
I never thought of that. Yes,
Name
absolutely.
You can't.
Yes. It doesn't even make sense because the second lady who spoke to me anonymously doesn't even want to be named.
Yeah.
It's not about fame.
No, nobody gets famous for that. I mean, there are easier ways to be famous.
There are easier ways to be famous. There are easier ways to be famous.
And being a rape survivor is not one of them.
It doesn't make you famous.
Yeah.
That's not
and
how.
also because, again, they don't understand. How long it took Busola back and forth to do this and to say no, then yes, then no. And also, they don't understand. They don't. So, again, like you said, if a woman wanted to be famous, accusing a powerful man of rape is not the one that she likely would choose. No.
So one of the things that I was reading about is actually how when you have traumatic events, it actually stays in the muscle, and the muscle has memories of that. And also, too, we also obviously have memories that come back when we've had some trauma in our lives. For people that have been traumatized, especially sexual assault at the age of 5, 6, 7, as they become adults, what are some of the things that you have found that sort of gets in the way of them having healthy relationships? And also, how can people start to actually confront this trauma that is lodged in our muscles and in our brains?
The first thing is to call it by its name, is to describe your experiences, of hopefully with a therapist, hopefully with a licensed therapist who understands how to navigate trauma. But even by yourself, just owning if something has been done to you, just say it to yourself, admit it to somebody you love, admit it to a sister, a husband, a mentor, a friend, somebody you trust fully. Somebody who won't tear apart your trauma and make you question yourself. That is usually the first step. Now, I won't go more than that because the next steps are things that I think that licensed therapists should deal. But what I know from all the research is the ability to own what has happened to you without shame. Because there's a difference between guilt and shame. Brené Brown talks about it a lot, and she's one of the leading researchers, more known researchers about vulnerability and shame. Guilt is when you did something wrong, it's about the action. Shame is about the person. So people must be able to name the actions that have happened to them or that they've done without thinking that it makes them less of a human being because of it. Be able to say, this person abused me, even if you participated in it. If you say, look, I hold myself, if you want to, responsible for not listening to my body when it warned me, my instincts. I knew I shouldn't have gone there. I knew I shouldn't have stayed there. But the point at which I said no or gave him no consent, regardless of whatever I did before then, that was on him.
Or whatever I was wearing.
Whatever I was wearing. So if you need to acknowledge the things that you're even ambiguous about, go ahead, name them, call them out, speak them out. But the point at which something was done to you, also be clear about that and that that's not your fault.
And how do people identify that something was done to them? Because as we were saying earlier, some people are actually not sure what constitutes rape.
Yes.
What is rape?
Yes. So rape is sex without consent, without expressed consent, which is at the bottom line. So people say it's not about force. It's not about physical violence. It's about the person saying yes.
And someone underage cannot give consent.
And somebody under 18 in many jurisdictions in Nigeria, apart from the places where they have dodgy laws, which is some states.
The criminal code and the penal.
Exactly.
In Lagos, in this a person, one of Yamada Malekun was saying, even if the child was begging, please.
We're going to have to say thank you, but we're bringing you back to do newspaper reviews with us. Thank you so much, Chude. This has been such an amazing morning.